Michael Flynn's lawyer just filed a new motion to dismiss the government's case against Michael Flynn for egregious government misconduct after more smoking gun evidence surfaced that FBI officials were determined to prosecute the former national security advisor. Let's welcome Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell. Great to have you on the show, Sidney.
Oh, thank you, Liz. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Can you tell us what's going on now with your motion to dismiss?
Yes, we just filed a second supplement to our motion to dismiss, and this supplement includes 11 pages of documents the United States Attorney from Missouri produced to us yesterday as a result of his review of the prosecution by the Special Counsel's Office and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. These documents include a report that was done by the FBI actually closing out the file on General Flynn by January 4, 2017, finding no evidence of any wrongdoing or improper Russian contacts or anything that would warrant further investigation in any way, shape, or form. And then suddenly, at the direction of the seventh floor, the tweets or the text messages between Strzok and Page indicate that Mr. Strzok reopened or made sure the file never got completely closed and started on an entirely different path. And they reflect additional violations of protocol by all the people in the FBI that were involved in setting up General Flynn.
So it seems that Peter Strzok on January 4th was saying, keep the case open against Michael Flynn. Do not shut it. And later that day, he texted Lisa Page to say it is, quote, serendipitously good that basically we're keeping the case open. And then she texts back, quote, phew. So this is on the news that basically there's more documents revealing that the FBI at that time was either trying to get Michael Flynn to lie or to admit to violations of the federal Logan Act. I mean, Senator Chuck Grassley was on our show last night saying you should throw the book at these guys. You should hold them accountable. Your reaction?
I agree. Well, he couldn't be held guilty of violating the Logan Act, aside from the fact no one ever has been. He was doing his job as a member of the presidential transition team. That's all he was doing, his job. Even the government admitted in the case in front of Judge Sullivan that there was nothing at all illegal or improper about his phone conferences, which was actually just one phone call that kept getting dropped with Ambassador Kislyak. So that was all hogwash, and they knew it. Brady material already produced showed us that they knew there was no real Logan Act violation. That was one of their many pretexts for trying to interview him.
So the newly released handwritten notes from an unnamed senior FBI official show the FBI agents debating, quote, what is our goal, truth/admission, or to get him, Michael Flynn, to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired. I mean, legal experts say this should send chills down everyone's spines. Inside the FBI, the attitude was there's violations by the Trump campaign. The Russia probe was underway. There was a push to do something about it. But, you know, we talked to legal experts. If you just strip away all the names and, you know, they're saying that this is really a constitutional problem, what the FBI officials were doing now. I mean, the notes also read, quote, if we're seen as playing games, the White House will be furious. Protect our institution by not playing games. So they're really striking and stunning, these notes.
Oh, yes. And then they went right about ignoring the advice to not play games. And that's exactly what they did, because they had a meeting in which they decided purposely to keep him relaxed and unguarded, to not even mention the admittedly recognized requirement of at least mentioning a Section 1001 violation, which is a false statement punishable by 5 years in prison, because they wanted to keep him relaxed and unguarded and not even realizing he was the subject of an interview. And if you go back and listen to the entire... No, in fact, he does not recall the word lawyer coming up in the conversation, and I'm pretty sure it didn't. I think McCabe's memo was a CYA thing for the file for himself that the government has relied on here and there. But that same memo reflects, and General Flynn does know this, of course, that they had transcripts of his conversations with Kislyak, so they didn't need to talk to him about those at all. They knew exactly what he'd said.
You know, by the way, Michael Flynn shared a video of the American flag. He tweeted it out, a video of the flag waving in the wind shortly after this news broke. The notes also show that FBI officials, and by the way, the notes appear to have the initials of William Priestap, the head of the FBI's counterintelligence division at the time, and relate to a
Yes.
meeting with the Bureau's then Deputy Director, Andrew McCabe. McCabe was the one who ultimately called Flynn that day to say, you're going to meet with Peter Strzok and another FBI official. The notes also indicate basically that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were debating when to apprise Michael Flynn of his so-called Miranda rights under 1001. What was your reaction when you saw that in the documents?
Well, I was expecting that also because I already knew from prior disclosures that they had decided not to even mention a Section 1001 violation to him, much less warn him of his legal rights to remain silent, et cetera. The full Miranda warnings were not given. They were never even contemplated giving him the Miranda warnings. The most they were even considering doing was say, oh, well, as you know, this could be a violation of Section 1001, or it's a violation of Section 1001 to make any kind of false statements. That was the most they were going to say. And yet, despite advice of counsel, they literally did not even do that because they wanted to keep him relaxed and unguarded in case their plan to get him out of there did not work. And he wound up being the national security advisor for the new administration for the entire time. And, you know, there could be hell to pay. He already knew and was trying to audit all the intel agencies for their egregious abuses. And he had already exposed the problems the Obama administration had with ISIS and the Afghanistan war debacle and any number of other things he had blown the whistle on while he was in the Obama administration. So God forbid we have an honest person speaking out and working in the Trump administration to get some of this mess straightened up.
You know, it's legal experts we talk to are astounded. Former FBI directors at the Bureau are astounded at what's going on with Michael Flynn. You've been trying to get these documents, you and your team have been trying to get these documents for years. It appears, are we correct in saying, in reporting that it appears that these documents have been withheld from your team and are even more potentially exculpatory documents forthcoming? AG Barr continues to look over the Justice Department investigation into the handling of the Flynn case. What's the status of both those questions?
They've already told us more exculpatory documents are coming. They have more to produce. And yes, it's obvious they have been withheld from the very beginning of the case because most of what we've gotten so far actually predates the interview of General Flynn on January 24th. And then they proceeded to make it up from there because they knew he didn't lie then either. In fact, we just learned from the IG report in December that one of the agents who interviewed him on January 24th had been surreptitiously and wrongfully inserted into a presidential briefing for Trump and Flynn back in August of 2016 before the election. And that was done specifically in the event that Flynn wound up being in the White House and they wanted to interview him later. That agent would have a baseline to go by and an ability to judge his mannerisms and to collect information on anything he said that they could use against him later. And again, that was all secretly. No warning at all, and a total breach of the trust that's supposed to exist between the incoming administration and the intelligence community.
Why did Michael Flynn plead guilty to lying to government investigators after this interview with the FBI in January 2017 about his contacts with Russians? Was he pressured into pleading guilty? Why did he plead guilty?
Well, there were any number of reasons. Judge Jed Rakoff has written an article several years ago on why the innocent plead guilty, and this case certainly exemplifies every one of those reasons. Number one, he'd already incurred a couple of $1 million in legal fees through Covington and Burling's attempts to get the FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act thing filed for his company, and then respond to the mountain of congressional subpoenas that followed and demands for productions of documents. And by August, I would say his fees were probably close to $2 million, if not more. He'd had to put his house on the market and sell it. The special counsel operation had started up and had focused with a laser on him. And they were threatening to, all of a sudden they put enormous pressure on him, threatening him to indict his son, who just had a 4-month-old baby, and indict him the next day if he didn't enter a plea of guilty. Come to find out, that he did that, and the very next day the news broke about the Strzok Page text messages, how bad all that was. none of which was disclosed to General Flynn. He didn't get a single piece of actual exculpatory evidence. The most he got was an explanation to his lawyers of a couple of things that wasn't even relayed to him fully or properly. And he was misled to believe that the agents had said he was lying when he knew he wasn't, but he was going to accept responsibility for what the government he trusted and believed in had said he'd done if they thought he was lying, and it was communicated back to him that that's what he understood them to say, and it turns out that wasn't true at all.
You know, Senator Chuck Grassley told us last night that he got a briefing from then FBI Director James Comey, who told him that he saw nothing that led them, that FBI agents, quote, saw nothing that led them to believe that Michael Flynn was lying. And James Comey said that he did not believe the Justice Department would charge Flynn. Is it Peter Strzok, the one who turned this all around to try to get Flynn prosecuted? Was it? Can you lay it at the feet of Peter Strzok, and who else?
We can lay it at the feet, I believe, of James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok, because of the text messages that are disclosed now, and there will be more evidence coming. We still have a lot more that they have said they're going to disclose to us.